An Italian Argentine is a person born in Argentina of Italian descent or an Italy-born person who resides in Argentina. It is estimated up to 24 million Argentines have some degree of Italian descent, making it the largest ethnic group in the country. Italians began arriving in Argentina in great numbers from 1857 to 1940, totaling 44.9% of the entire immigrant population. More than from any other country, and this migratory flow continued to the early 1950s, with Italy also having the most emigrants to Argentina for the decades 1980–2000. Because of this, Italian descent is at least 60% of the population, almost 25 million. In 1996, the Italian Argentines were 15.88 million when Argentina unregistered trademark S population was about 34.5 million, meaning that they were 46% of the Argentine population. Italian settlement in Argentina, along with Spanish settlement, formed the backbone of today's Argentine society. Argentine culture has significant connections to Italian culture in terms of language, customs and traditions. History. Small groups of Italians started to immigrate to Argentina as early as the second half of the 17th century. However, the stream of Italian immigration to Argentina became a mass phenomenon only in the years 1880 to 1920 during the Great European Immigration Wave to Argentina, peaking between 1900 to 1914. About 2 million settled between 1880 to 1920, and just 1 million between 1900 to 1914. In 1914, the city of Buenos Aires alone had more than 300,000 Italian-born inhabitants, representing 25% of the total population. The Italian immigrants were primarily male, between 14 to 50 and more than 50% literate. In terms of occupations, 78.7% in the active population were agricultural workers or unskilled laborers, 10.7% artisans, while only 3.7% worked in commerce or as professionals. The outbreak of World War I and the rise of fascism in Italy caused a rapid fall in immigration to Argentina, with a slight revival in 1923–27, but eventually stopped during the Great Depression and the Second World War. After the end of World War II, Italy was reduced to rubble and occupied by foreign armies. The period 1946 to 1957 brought another massive wave of 380,000 Italians to Argentina. The substantial recovery allowed by the Italian economic miracle of the 1950–60s eventually caused the era of Italian diaspora abroad to finish, and in the following decades Italy became a migration-receiving country. Today, there are still 527,570 Italian citizens living in the Argentine Republic. Characteristics of Italian immigration in Argentina. Italian immigrants to Argentina, 1861 to 1920. Areas of origin. In the decades pre-1900, Italian immigrants initially arrived mainly from the northern regions of Piedmont, Veneto and Lombardy. After the turn of the century and the unification of Italy and the establishment of the north as the dominant region of the unified Italy, immigration patterns shifted to rural and former independent southern Italy, especially Campania, Calabria and Sicily. In Argentine slang, Tano is still used for all people of Italian descent where it originally means inhabitant of the former independent state, Regno di Napoli. In comparison to Brazil and Uruguay, Argentina received more people from the south of Italy. The assumption that emigration from cities was negligible has an important exception, and that is the city of Naples. 1. The city went from being the capital of its own kingdom in 1860 to being just another large city in Italy. The loss of bureaucratical jobs and the subsequently declining financial situation led to high unemployment. In the early 1880s, epidemics of cholera also struck the city, causing many people to leave. Italian immigrants arrived in Argentina and regional distribution. Italian immigration to Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay. Italian regional origin of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay immigrants. Culture. Language. According to Ethnologue, Argentina has more than 1,500,000 Italian speakers, making it the second most spoken language in the nation. In spite of the great many Italian immigrants, The Italian language never truly took hold in Argentina, in part because at the time the great majority of Italians spoke especially their regional languages and not a lot the Italian language. This prevented any expansion of the use of the Italian language as a primary language in Argentina. The similarity of the Italian dialects with Spanish also enabled the immigrants to assimilate, by using the Spanish language, with relative ease. Italian immigration from the second half of the 19th century to the beginning of the 20th century made a lasting and significant impact on the intonation of Argentina's vernacular Spanish. Preliminary research has shown that Rioplatense Spanish, and particularly the speech of the city of Buenos Aires, has intonation patterns that resemble those of Italian dialects, and differ markedly from the patterns of other forms of Spanish. This correlates well with immigration patterns as Argentina, and particularly Buenos Aires, had huge numbers of Italian settlers since the 19th century. According to a study conducted by National Scientific and Technical Research Council of Argentina, and published in Bilingualism, Language and Cognition, the researchers note that this is a relatively recent phenomenon, starting in the beginning of the 20th century with the main wave of southern Italian immigration. Before that, the Porti +or-O accent was more similar to that of Spain, especially Andalusia. Much of Lunfardo arrived with European immigrants, such as Italians, Spanish, Greek, Portuguese, and Poles. It should be noted that most Italian and Spanish immigrants spoke their regional languages and dialects and not standard Italian or Spanish. Other words arrived from the Pampa by means of the gauchos. A small number originated in Argentina's native population. Most sources believe that Lunfardo originated in jails, as a prisoner-only argot. Circa 1900, the word lunfardo itself was used to mean outlaw. Lunfardo words are inserted in the normal flow of Rioplatense Spanish sentences. Thus, a Spanish-speaking Mexican reading tango lyrics will need, at most, the translation of a discrete set of words, and not a grammar guide. Tango lyrics use lunfardo sparsely, but some songs employ lunfardo heavily. Milonga Lunfardo by Edmundo Rivero is an instructive and entertaining primer on lunfardo usage. Examples: parla, to speak; maña, to know/to eat; mina, female; labura, to work; fiaca, laziness; chapa, estufo, beonono. Between about 1880 and 1900, Argentina received a large number of peasants from the south of Italy, who arrived with little or no schooling in the Spanish language. As those immigrants strove to communicate with the local criollos, they produced a variable mixture of Spanish with Italian languages and dialects, especially Neapolitan. This pidgin language was given the derogatory name Coquilish by the locals. Since the children of the immigrants grew up speaking Spanish at school, work, and military service, Coquilish remained confined mostly to the first-generation immigrants, and slowly fell out of use. The pidgin has been depicted humorously in literary works and in the Argentine Saonet theater, for example by Dario Vittori. Cuisine Argentine cuisine has been strongly influenced by Italian cuisine. The typical Argentine diet is a variation on the Mediterranean diet. Italian staple dishes like pizza and pasta are common. Pasta is extremely common, either simple unadorned pasta with butter or oil, or accompanied by tomato or bechamel-based sauce. Pizza, for example, has been wholly subsumed and in its Argentine form more closely resembles Italian calzones than it does its Italian ancestor. Typical or exclusively Argentine pizzas include pizza canchera, pizza rellena, pizza palmetto, and pizza alla parrilla. While Argentine pizza derives from Neapolitan cuisine, the Argentine fugazza comes from the focaccia cuisines, but in any case its preparation is different from its Italian counterpart, and the addition of cheese to make the dish is an Argentine invention. Faina is a type of thin bread made with chickpea flour. The name comes from the Ligurian word for the Italian farinata. During the 20th century, people in pizzerias in Buenos Aires, Rosario or Car Cubed RDOBA have commonly ordered a combo of Moscato, pizza, and faina. This is a large glass of a sweet wine called Moscato, plus 2 triangular stacked pieces. Pizza and faina are normally served together. Nevertheless, the pastas surpass pizzas in consumption levels. Among them are tallarines, ravioles, a plus or minus oak, and cannellones. They are usually cooked, served, and consumed in Argentine fashion, called all'uso nostro, a phrase of Italian origin. For example, it is common for pasta to be eaten together with white bread, which is unusual in Italy. This can be explained by the low cost of bread and the fact that Argentine pastas tend to come together with a large amount of tuco sauce, and accompanied by estofado. Less commonly, pastas are eaten with a dressing of pesto, a green sauce based on basil, or salsa blanca. Sorrentinos are also a local dish with a misleading name. They look like big round ravioles stuffed with mozzarella, cottage cheese and basil in tomato sauce. Polenta comes from northern Italy and is very common throughout Argentina. And, just like polenta concia in Italy, this cornmeal is eaten as a main dish, with sauce and melted cheese. Other dishes are milanesas, or breaded meats. A common dish of this variety is the Milanese napolitana. Milanese napolitana is an Argentine innovation despite its name, and it consists of a breaded meat with cheese, tomatoes and in some special cases, ham on top of the meat. The Milanesa was brought to Argentina from Central European immigrants, its name reflecting the original Milanese preparation cotoletta alla Milanese, which also inspired the Wiener Schnitzel. Pasta frolla is a typical Argentine recipe heavily influenced by southern Italian cuisine, also known as pasta frolla in Italy. Pasta frolla consists of a buttery pastry base with a filling made of quince jam, sweet potato jam or milk caramel and topped with thin strips of the same pastry, forming a squared pattern. It is an Argentine tradition to eat pasta frolla with mate in the afternoon. The dish is also very popular in Paraguay and Uruguay. The traditional Italian recipe was not prepared with latticework as it is in Argentina, but with a lid pierced with molds and forms of heart or flowers. The Argentine variant of ice cream is particularly popular in Argentine desserts. Its creamy texture is due to the large proportion of cream, and flavors range from classical chocolate with almonds to Argentine dulce de leche kiwi, wine or tangerine. Ice cream was again a legacy of the Italian diaspora. See also: White Latin Americans, Argentine-Italian relations, demographics of Argentina, German settlement in Argentina, immigration in Argentina, Spanish settlement in Argentina. References. External links: Immigrants being transported on horse-drawn wagon, Buenos Aires, Argentina is a photograph by Frank G. Carpenter. He talks about Italian Argentines in the side caption.